Okay, here we are beginning our study in this unit on research methods, web publication, 21st century communication skills. And the first one we're talking about, yes, you see it highlighted on your screen, thematic note taking. You want to take notes while we're going through this information because you're going to have to do a brief little formative assessment activity afterwards. Okay, so you ask, what is thematic note-taking? Well, to understand that, we kind of first have to understand what a theme is. A theme is a unifying or dominant idea. And you're going to use that to pull together all the big ideas and all the different sources. You say, what do you mean, different sources? Well, yes. When you're engaged in research, you want to consult more than one source so you can make broad-based conclusions of making certain that you're proving what you're pointing out. Now, you usually start off with a set of themes that you think will match what you're investigating. That's what you think is going to be the case. Now, as you do your research, you might eliminate some themes that don't seem to actually be in the sources you're consulting. You might add to them. You got to be flexible when you're approaching your themes and you're doing your research. Now, you also see on the screen here that sometimes your themes that you do decide to use are going to cause you to have to make a hard decision. And that hard decision is you basically give up on some really good information because it doesn't fit the overall approach. Sometimes it seems that your themes can take your paper in a direction you didn't anticipate, and those really great themes that or facts you found earlier don't fit in the themes you're using. So again, you got to be flexible. Now, if you follow this theme approach, it does indeed allow you to take a deeper, probing, analytical approach. Now, I'm going to take you and show you very briefly a website mentioned there, as you see it on the screen, about note-taking. So this shows it's not just some idea that I came up with. This is something that is used in advanced research. Now, you can go to this website. It does have this good information. You got to be careful of some websites. As you see, there's a lot of advertisements on this. But just because there's a lot of advertisements does not mean there isn't also going to be good information there as well. So, now, this is one of my key selling points in following thematic note-taking approach. If you do it well, and you follow your themes, and you make analytical comments as you go along, then when you start organizing your notes based on the themes that you use, and yes, you'll code them with numbers or letters as you go along, your paper almost feels like it's half written before you even start the writing part. So you can organize your theme-coded notes into groupings, and then those groupings convert into sections of your paper. So basically you've already got your paragraph groupings organized. You just have to combine them into actual paragraphs. Now, themes can be or include what we call a thesis or argument. You say, what is a thesis? Well, if you've been studying science, you know what a thesis is. It's the main idea. And an argument is what we call it in humanities, history, where one person can take a certain viewpoint of this historical event should be interpreted this way. And then you go about proving it with your research that you pull based on the themes you're following. And other people can argue with it. So that's why we call them arguments. It can be kind of fun to get engaged in that kind of discussion. But those theses and arguments do help you move through your sources in that organized way. It does keep you focused so you don't start flying off in other directions that aren't going to actually match up with your argument and your theme, all that coding that you're going to be doing. Now, this can be done on any different type of source, whether it's an audio source, a video source, a primary source that you've pulled and are analyzing, not knowing if anybody else has ever analyzed it, a secondary source written by somebody who wasn't actually experiencing the event or describing. So you can use these in all different types. And this is my second reminder that you need to be taking notes. Pause the video if you need to so that you can write your notes down, because you're going to need those notes. It'll make your formative assessment after this activity a lot easier to do. Okay. This is an example. It's an example of a format that could be followed. I like some parts of it because it does give you one section for your notes, another section where you put in your main idea and keywords. Now, this form calls it the main idea and keywords. I'd call it my topic, my theme, and I would use like a number or a letter that would tell me what that theme basically is. Then any questions you might have, most of the times I didn't ask questions, but what I would put in is summary notes where I give my thoughts on it. So when I'm coding these things and pulling all my facts together later, different facts from different sources all following the same theme, I'd have different thoughts already written down that when the thing was fresh in mind, I was first looking at it, and that helps organize my thought. Okay, so here you see some codes that could be used in a research paper on divorce in Fauquier County, Virginia, between 1880 and 1900. There's different themes right here. These are the first things I started with when I did this paper. And you can see, I'm not going to read them to you, but you can see the different types of themes, the different things that I thought I would be finding based on some preliminary reading. You don't just make them up off the top of your head. You do a little bit of reading first, start to get an idea of what these topic sources are going to show, and then you go through actually deciding which ones you're going to use as you get deeper into your sources. But this is something we'll be going back and forth between this slide and the next slide to show you something. Okay. So here you see an actual notes and analysis done from a primary source. In Fauquier County, they have their Chancery Court records online, which allowed me to pull the original sources, the court records of these cases. And you could see that what I was going through is I was making notes based on specific things that I saw from this case. And you'll notice the numbers in yellow, in the little yellow boxes. Those are the themes. So one thing I found in this document was property rights of women during divorce cases. So what is theme number 2? Women's issues, victimization, agency. That's whether they have control themselves. So that shows me that property rights of women were an issue in this case. Then you see here claims of adultery were made and different claims like that, and I coded that as that could fit into 3 different categories, 3, 4, and 7. 3 being violence, 4 being how reasons given for divorce are used, and 7 being manipulation. In other words, sometimes people manipulated things in court cases back then just like they do today. So just to show you briefly, just as an interest thing, some of the information from the court cases that came through. I'll show you the original document. You say, whoa, how could I read that? Well, it isn't easy. Sometimes the handwriting was not as good as you see here. Sometimes they would abbreviate words and put the abbreviations together, which made it even harder. But you as a researcher want to determine yourself that you'll work as hard as you have to be able to determine what it says. So I'll read just a little bit of this to you, and I'll stop when I get to a point that matches one of my themes. William N. Berryman, plaintiff, to Molly E. Berryman, defendant, in Chancery, this cause coming in to be heard upon the bill of W. N. Berryman, plaintiff, and the answer of Molly E. Berryman thereto, the cross bill. So I stop and say, what that does is it matches up with the theme of women. Number 2, women's issues. They had agency. Agency means they had some input and effect over what was happening to them. The fact that she was able to countersue her husband for divorce showed that she wasn't just a victim in this situation. So that's where we're using the themes from the original source to be able to tell things. Now also, this shows you where some of the information in the PowerPoint slide was pulled from. So you see, just briefly, I'm going to page through. Here's page 1, and it goes a little bit into page 2. So when you do use these electronic documents, whether you're using a Word document or something else, it allows you to either copy and paste from the source that you're looking at and then put your coding in, and then you can copy that and put it into one page where you're gathering all your category 7 notes from all your different sources, which is a really valuable thing to do. You have to have multiple sources because you don't want to go in front of a professor and have to explain why did you only use a few sources. So one other thing that we're going to do here is go to show you a document on the notes. And I'm going to point some things out to you. You may or may not notice what is at the top of this page. And it shows you the citation information. Why is that so important, Mr. Stevens? this has happened to me, where I found really great information and I'd put it into a document like this, and it was really good and it helped me make an even stronger case in my paper, but I had neglected to copy all of this information. I had neglected to copy the citation information. And it took me about 2-3 hours to go back and find that citation information because I felt I had to use the fact. That's why you always copy that down. Now you see how this is not actually typing, it's an image. When you're looking at some PDF documents, they let you copy text, but some pieces of a PDF document, which a lot of notes are put into to get access to a lot of people, some of them require you to basically select it, and when you copy it, it makes a picture. And you see here what you're looking at, this now little box there is a picture, but it gave me the citation information I needed. You also notice that this is on the secondary source, a journal article written by David Peterson on claiming that wife beating at that point in time was American tradition. And you also notice that you see the yellow part here. I pull in information from one of my other sources. So I'm already thinking, as I'm gathering more information, I'm thinking, what have I already found and how did that connect up? So again, you're using your themes in your thematic note-taking approach to begin to combine your facts before you actually put it into an outline to use to write. Because again, you're using those activities that you've gone through ahead of time to do part of your writing before you actually start to write. Okay. Now, to show you something important, we're going to go to the outline of the entire paper. Now, in this outline, you'll notice that I have it into sections. This is the opening, reasons for divorce. Scroll down through here. This is property, rights, and wealth. See, I just did decide to use all my themes, but some of my themes I could put into different spots. This is subject to physical violence. This is subject to verbal and mental violence. This is resilience, agency, positions of power. So you can see that this paper was divided into multiple different sections based on what? Yes, themes. The other thing that you notice here is this is one of the primary sources. Smith, William versus Lena, 55. That's my information that helps me tell it was the 55th case that I reviewed out of 92 cases I reviewed for this research. But it was the Smith, William versus Lena, which is the information I'll need if I choose to use any of these facts in the actual writing of the paper. I have to cite it. Now you also notice the blue number here. The blue number is the page number that represents, well, actually not the page number. This is the source number. This means it's source number 9. Sorry about that. Source number 9, but page 310 of source number 9. Now, why would I need that information? Because I need both the source information, which is going to be back on my page that told me what source number 9 was, and I need to have the page number to give a citation in the paper. And again, this is source number 2. This fact was gotten from page 574 of source number 2. And you see here I've even highlighted to emphasize to myself this goes with the reasons for divorce. So that's why I pulled it from another spot and pasted it into this overall paper section, opening, reasons for divorce. So you see how this is the outline that was used to write the paper, but the fact that I had coded my notes as to what theme they fit into allowed me to quickly paste them into here and mark them as to which source they were and what page in that source they were from. So I'm going to ask you a question as you scroll down through here. This is 1 page, 2 pages, 3 pages, 4 pages, 4 pages on just that one topic. Now, do you think I used all of those facts that I'd pulled? Because remember, I had taken it from this big and then put it down to this big as far as the number of facts I have. Now I have it down to this big. So I've started out gathering a lot of facts, and I keep filtering out what goes together the best. That's what themes allow you to do. It allows you to filter your information so you get the best facts that fit together in the best way. So I get it down to this spot. I have 4 pages of notes. Can I use all those notes? Well, no, because if my professor tells me I have a 25-page limit, I can't use all the facts no matter how good they are. So again, you're forced again to decide which ones go together best, which if you've done your thematic note-taking well, again, much of your work is already done. So, just to alert you to the fact, remind you the third time, what you're going to do now is you're going to go to the blog that is made available inside this folder, and I'll show you there in just a minute, and you're going to do the top 5 thematic note facts. So, you will go into your Blackboard class. You will click on course materials, and the server is now down, so hold on, we'll try to refresh. Okay, well, I will try to make an addendum, and then we will come back in and I'll show you where those notes are. Actually, I can show you in some orientation sessions we have. Now, if you have any questions on this video, don't hesitate to put them on the class sharing blog or any of the other ways of sharing information. That way we can help each other out. So thank you very much.